Welcome to the third episode of School's Out 80's. In a world like ours, we need to laugh and have fun. This episode features Christopher Uzinski. Next up is Todd Crabtree. And of course, my co-host, Leanne Savage from the UK. First, let's go back and set the scene. It's the 1980s. Reagan is president. Ketchup is a vegetable. Madonna is on top of the pop charts. Michael Jackson is both free and thriller. Movies are $3. Van Halen are the monsters of rock. Russia is the enemy, and James Bond is the man. TVs are furniture, and MTV is playing all day long. This was a time for people coming together, families and friends, to have a good time and enjoy each other's company. You didn't stare at your phone. You told jokes. You cut up. You hug, you dance, you celebrated life. Our show is going to take you back in time. The funny stories that you don't want to forget. Life is short, so Leanne and I are here to entertain you. This show is clean, no real name for you, and we want to share our funny stories with you so you can share yours with us. Again, welcome to School's Out 80's.
Hey everybody, welcome to School's Out 80's. This is the third broadcast of School's Out 80's. We're super excited to be with you here. We're coming to you live from three parts of the world: Dallas, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, and Birmingham, England. Today, our special guest, coming all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, very funny man, Christopher Uzinski.
Hello.
And my co-host, who wants to say hi, Leanne
Hi.
Savage.
Yeah, hi everybody. So I'd just like to also explain that my crown has fell out, but I'm here rocking the toothless look. So
Show us, Leanne. I mean, really rock the toothless look. Come on.
yeah. See?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Own that.
Yeah, and if anyone's missing a tooth, we're standing solid together.
She's an MMA fighter.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Hey, we're all jealous. If you go get a milkshake, nobody's going to see the straw.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I can't say my F's properly, but yeah, I'll play through. I always play through.
Hey, it's all good. It's
Team
all
player.
good.
Yeah.
So we are going to turn it over the mic right now to Christopher Uzinski. This is all about the 80s. Chris is a product of the 80s, as am I, as of Leanne, just in a different way.
Yeah.
And she's a biological product of the 80s. And we're chemical products of the 80s. No, I'm teasing. This is a clean show. Okay, so it's over to Chris. Chris for his stories. We're going to sit here, listen, laugh, and relate. Chris, it's all you, brother.
Awesome. Hey, John. Thank you very much for having me today. It's super exciting. Obviously, John and I go way back. Went to high school together and part of grade school. And really, we're very fortunate as we grew up. We actually went to a parochial high school. There's a few high schools in the area, and by far our high school is the smallest. So I think there's something about going to a really, really small, like my graduating class, I graduated a year separate than John, and our graduating class was like 58 people. And so
Wow.
I don't know what it was about being in a small school that we felt like we had to compete with all the bigger schools. So we did everything to the extreme. I mean, we stayed out later. We went out more. We had more parties. I mean, not even remotely kidding. It was just, I think there was something about trying to prove ourselves that we were, had the most popularity, and we did more. I used to say, all my buddies were like partners in crime. We were just always up to something. We were just out doing something, even if it was like sneaking out and, trying not to get caught. And growing up, we had an average like middle class, neighborhood. It was maybe about 85, 90 homes. Super great place to grow up. I mean, every day, the summertime, it was nonstop playing. And I mean, from the time we got up, we were gone, just out the door, playing in the woods, building forts, playing freeze tag. soccer, kickball, you name it, we were having a blast. And my buddy who lived right across the street from me, we were as thick as thieves. And my buddy's name was Jeff. He went to another high school, and we were constantly just always doing something. And one of the things that we loved the most is Halloween. And so we would go out on Halloween, we go out trick or treat, of course, and get our costumes and stuff. But then it got to a point when it's just time to do what Halloween's all about. It's about pranks and doing stuff. Well, Jeff and I, this is back, of course, dating ourselves, obviously being in the 80s, we rode our bikes everywhere, like miles and miles and miles away from home. Like we would just be out on our own. And we decided to go get our Halloween costumes. And so latex masks were all the rage, from Mummy to Frankenstein. So we drove to Kmart and we saved up our money to get these masks or whatever. So I got this really kind of scary looking devil mask. Jeff got this kind of Frankenstein mask. And then we got home and we decided to make our own costumes and stuff. So we shredded old t-shirts and stuff and kind of almost had these ghillie suits, so to speak, but we were completely covered. You really couldn't tell who we were. So of course we go out and we're trick-or-treating around the neighborhood, and we finally get our candy loaded up, and it's getting fairly late. And Jeff, he's one of these guys that he did the craziest stuff because he didn't pre-plan anything. He never had an alibi. I told him, I said, before you do something, let's have an alibi so we don't get caught. So, of course, we're out opening mailboxes. We always said we never really did anything bad. We just kind of inconvenienced. We'd put for sale signs in people's yards and open their mailboxes and stuff. Well, there was this little old lady. Her name was Mrs. Gallagher, and she was an old retired school teacher. And she was all of 4.5 feet tall, this tiny lady. And she would walk her chihuahua around the neighborhood once a week or every day. And so Jeff and I are we go back home and check in, and we go back out. And so we're okay, let's go do this. And so her house, this little tiny house, again, this woman then had to be 88 years old,
right.
Lived by herself, whatever, had this. So Jeff and I are out gallivanting around, and Jeff goes, let's go ring and run some people. So, we go ring doorbells, run and hide and stuff like that, get them to come to the door. They used to call it ding dong ditch too, but we always call it ring and run. So we're doing that for a while. Well, we get near Mrs. Gallagher's house, and of course we're in these latex masks, so we're hot and we're sweaty. And,
how old were you, Chris?
It was before we could drive. So we were probably I'd say about 13 or so. And, so obviously we have 4 vehicles and stuff. So we're out. And we're also at that point too. We're also getting that age where we're kind of getting a little too old to trick or treat. So we wouldn't even do that anymore. Yeah. So we're out literally strictly just up to no good at this point, Well, Jeff, as we're walking by, he goes, "There's old lady Gallagher's house." And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Watch this." And I go, "What are you doing?" And he goes, and I kid you not, he goes, "Lady Gallagher." And I go, "You're gonna what?" And I go, "What?" And she has this huge oak tree in front of her house. So we're standing behind it, and there's a road right behind it, which is called Lover's Lane, John. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know.
And we're sitting there, I'm looking around, there's no cars. And I go, "What are you doing?" And Jeff just takes off. And he's going up to her front porch. I'm going, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." And I'm yelling, "Jeff, Jeff." And I can't be too loud because there's neighbors everywhere. So right. Of course, all the house is dark, whatever. Well, Jeff rings the doorbell, and I'm like, "Oh my God!" I go, "This is going to end badly." And I'm like, and the whole time I'm going, "Jeff, Jeff," and he's telling me to shut up, and I'm going, "Jeff, Jeff." Next minute, the porch lights come on, and next minute, my buddy is like, and I'm going, "Jeff, Jeff," and he tells me he's like. Flags me off, comes to the door, opens the door, and there's my buddy literally. So it wasn't enough that he's already, he literally starts making this sound. And I'm like, and the reason why I'm yelling Jeff the whole time, the idiot leaves his mask on top of his head. That's what I'm trying to tell him. It's like, "Jeff, your mask isn't even down." So while she opens the door, looks at him and goes, Jeffrey Francis, you are, and oh my God, Jeff just takes off running. I'm running behind him, and I'm like, you moron.
Yeah.
I go, you left your, that's why I was yelling at you. And he goes, we know more than we're halfway home. And you could hear his dad. She had already called his dad and told him what he had just did. And I mean, he was yelling for him on the front porch. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. We didn't see him for like half the summer, man. He got in so much trouble for that. I'm like, I go, and I'm like, what were you thinking? Like, like it wasn't enough. You can just ring a doorbell. You had to do this.
And also he had the perfect opportunity to hide his face too.
Right.
It's like literally just on his head.
Yeah. Completely left it up. And she's like, Jeffrey Francis. Oh, I couldn't believe it. Oh, God, I remember his parents I had not seen adults that mad in a while. And of course he had to go do yard work in her yard for like a week, like they put him on like cleanup detail around the neighborhood. Like, of course we all just made fun of him the whole time. So, and then one of my wife's all-time favorite stories, which is not one of my favorite stories, but growing up, I mean, again, this neighborhood, we had a ton of kids, ton of fun. There was always something to do. And this one year I get home and like most kids, you can't wait for summer. I mean, summer you live for it. I mean, those months, those 3 months go by so quick. So I was all about maximum fun. So from the time I could get up, eat lunch, and go out there, I was gone. Well, my parents come home and I sit down for dinner, and my mom goes, well, guess what? We've got a surprise for you. And I go, like, what's that? And she goes, we signed you up for summer camp. And I'm like, what? And I'm livid. And I go, summer camp. I don't want to go to summer camp. Mom goes, well, we've already signed you up. And, it's going to be for a whole week. It's out, a few miles away. We've known a lot of kids, they love it. There's canoeing and all the crafts and stuff. And I remember mom and dad are selling me, they're pitching me this. And I am just at the table and I'm so mad. And mama goes, well, listen, it's next Saturday. We're driving you out there. Oh, there's going to be like 100 kids out. You're going to make new friends. And I'm like, I don't want new friends.
Church camp?
No, it was no. It was just a regular summer camp. It was actually outward. It was actually Camp Marvin Hilliard is what it was. So,
camp. I had to go
that's exactly what it was. So, and the story even gets better. So listen to this. So they're it's like the brochure. They're telling me about all the amenities and the cab, and I don't care. I'm mad. I'm just like, you're taking my summer away from me. Like, and because I want to hang out with my friends, I want to hang out with my neighbors, and go do stupid stuff with Jeff, right? So they're like, no, next Saturday, it's Saturday to Saturday, taking you out there in the morning. And of course, later on, my parents like, no, we need a break from you, Chris. Like, you're a handful.
Was it day camp, Chris, or was it night camp?
It was day. It was full 24 hour. I mean, you stayed there the whole time, so it was all day, and then at night, we'd have like campfires and s'mores and stuff.
And then you slept over. Okay.
Yeah, so you stayed there. So I'm like gone for an entire week, like sun up to sundown. So they take me out there, and and so mom, she gets my little suitcase out, and she goes, okay, well, I've got everything packed for you, and she says, I've also pre-addressed envelopes so you could write letters, and I've already got them stamped. So every day, if you could write a little letter to me, we'd love to get it. This is back when the mail didn't take like 8 months, and so she puts everything in there. I got this, I've got that, I've got that. So I've got my little bag, and I go out. So they drop me off, and I wouldn't even talk to my parents. I'm so pissed, and so I mean, just livid. And so anyway, so each one of the cabins, they had and they're all named after Indians. They had like the Bravo, they had like the Cherokee, they had, so each of these cabins had like an Indian theme, and they were like pictured little tiny log cabins, screen door, and there was literally 4 bunks, 2 bunks on each side, a little table. And then of course they had a long pathway, which was to the local, to the bathroom where you could get showers.
Like 5th and 6th grade?
Yeah, I was going to say I was probably about I was a little bit younger than I want to say it was probably like 4th grade, something like that, 4th or 5th.
Okay, so it would have been like 1977 or something like that.
Yeah, it probably would have been. Let me see. Yeah, something about in that age, like late 70s or whatever. And and I remember just like going out there, and my parents dropped me off, and so So the routine, here's what happens. So we'd go you go through all your, you meet your instructors, all that stuff. And then throughout the day, you're having games and stuff. Well, at the end of the night, they would have lights out, campers, almost like the movie Meatballs, like lights out, campers, whatever. And so they would start shutting out all the lights. So me and so my 3 other bunkmates, we would all, we'd all go brush our teeth, do our thing, and we would all go to bed. Well, that's what most everybody did. Me, I did the same thing, except I went to bed every single night. I made a load of brownies in the bed. Like, I don't know why. I don't know if it was nerves. I don't know if it was my stomach, whatever. So here I am going to bed. God. Yes, like literally. So everybody else is sound asleep. This is every night. So I did not see that coming. Oh my God, dude. I did not see that coming. I would just unload and I'd go. And so I would get up, sneak out, get, another pair of underwear, go all the way down the gravel pathway in the middle at like 2:00 in the morning, clean up, go through all this stuff so I'm on like 2 hours sleep every night. So, by the time everybody else's birds are chirping and I'm just like, of course, being young and not knowing better. So I'm, trying my best to kind of hide everything in my suitcase because I don't want to be embarrassed. So finally, after a week of this, my parents come rolling in, it's a little like what you see on the movies. All the parents come rolling in their cars and their kids are running to them, hugging them. And this is my new friend. And my parents open up the door and I just dive in the back seat. And my mom was like, well, okay. And so she's leaving. She was like, well, did you have a good time? And I wouldn't talk. I was just in the back seat. And she's like, well, I guess we tried to do something fun for you that we thought you'd like. And apparently that was a huge mistake. And I'm like, well, I guess it was. And so my parents get home. I immediately go up to my room. My mom opens my suitcase. And she's like, my dad's name was Frank. And she's like, Frank, get in here. And she goes, oh my God. She goes, look in the suitcase. She said, like, literally, she said, I had half of it was just with crappy underwear. And she's like, the whole time it looks like he had accidents. And my dad goes, well, he told you he didn't want to go. And I guess now we know why. And I mean, like, wow. It was brutal. So, and then Angie, my wife, recently like Googled on whatever, and she said, I looked up that camp, and she said, you know what? I found out it's now a special needs camp. And I went, well, you know what? Maybe it was back then too, and I didn't even know it. But I'm like, oh my God, dude. Yeah, because she was like, for my 50th birthday, she's going to try to find me a T-shirt or something. And I go, oh, that'd be great. So everybody else talks about their camp experience, summer camp. Mine was a crappy experience.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes, it was.
Man, it was not fun.
Yeah, and I assume you never wanted to go back to camp ever again.
Oh no, and even our friends that say, they have children and they're like, oh, our kids love camp, they can't wait to go, they literally are so excited. I'm going, nah, I wish I had that experience. Listen, I hated every minute of it.
I bet you slept a lot when you got home after.
Oh yeah, I don't think I got out of my room for 2 days or whatever. Yeah. And my mom's like, well, you never wrote me one letter. And I'm like, because I was so mad. I intentionally didn't write you a letter because I'm having a horrible experience. Like, what am I going to write about? Dear Mom and Dad, I sure miss you. I'm still pooping my pants, pooping the bed every single night. Love, Chris. What am I going to write?
Yeah.
Brutal.
I love the Halloween story. In England, we call it knock door run. When you knock on a, And I remember being too old for trick-or-treating too, which we was always upset about because we still wanted the candy and the sweets and the chocolate. So we would gather our little brothers and sisters and we would like work them. They would be like, I want to go home. And we were like, no, we don't have enough candy yet to share around. So we have
got another hour of work.
Yeah.
I want more chocolate this time.
Yeah. Look cute. Please look cuter. Smile more.
What did you ever, Leanne, when you were growing up, did you ever also switch costumes so you could go to houses twice?
Yeah, we did.
We would do that. We'd switch masks or like costumes just so we could go load up again.
Yeah, we would switch masks, and we would have like cardboard masks that were very, very cheap at the shops.
Yeah.
So what we would do was just like get 2 or 3, so that then you could go to the same. And I'm pretty sure they all knew exactly what we was doing, but they must have just thought it was funny and gave us sweets anyway.
Oh, yeah. It's like yeah, they know. It's like, and I remember anytime that any adult would give you anything other than candy, like they give you fruit or apples or anything like that, those immediately got tossed, because we're like, no, we want chocolate, sweet tarts, like any of that stuff. So anybody that would try to, obviously try to not give you candy and stuff, so they'd give you an apple, or it could be a banana or a pear or whatever. Those things always got launched in the woods. We're like, no. We don't want any of your healthy stuff.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I wanted to add something to Chris's story if I could. So, so when Eddie Van Halen first came on the scene, it was like 1979, and in the rock and roll magazines at the time, they started talking about the tone of his guitar, and they called it the brown sound. And for Chris, his experience at the Y camp, I would call the brown camp.
Yeah.
You would be highly accurate on that. Yeah. You absolutely nailed it.
I'll tell you, being a Boy Scout leader for 7 years, that kind of thing scares me.
You've probably seen your fair share.
Oh yes, we had to rescue many a boy who didn't do too well on his first camp away from his
I guess it's just nerves or something.
Many times I second guessed my vocation.
Yeah, I think between that, I think there's something about growing up, especially as young boys, is that your job was not only to wreak havoc and stuff, but you also had to it was your duty just to pick on the younger ones, right? I mean, it was like the younger boys, neighbors. I don't care if it's your little brother, your little sister, but it was just your job. And my nephews, I remember growing up in the same house. We're in this house that's called Colony Square, and my dad was a home builder growing up. So throughout the years, he built several homes. So we moved every 2 or 3 years in the same general area. And I remember we had a really big rec room, and I don't know, it's probably about 12, 13. My nephews are about half my age. I would say, they're probably like, 5 or 6. And the rec room was all paneling, of course. This is back when everybody did paneling in their homes. Well, my dad did this big rec room with all this paneling in it. Well, below the stairs, as you come down the stairs, like most people's stairs below, it's empty, right? It's completely, well, there's a door around back that went to it, and obviously, and then he did this a little secret, a hidden storage door in it. And I remember opening it. What's this for, Dad? It's like, well, that's all wasted space, Chris. He said, this is where we can put luggage, Christmas decorations, stuff that we just, I go, oh, okay. And he goes, and now, whenever your mom or I need to get into it, you can just use this little hidden door. And you really couldn't even see it on this little tiny handle and whatever. So my nephews, of course, who I just love to pick on, we had a big party over at the house. All the adults are upstairs playing cards and drinking and laughing and probably smoking cigarettes. Well, we're all downstairs and we're playing hide and go seek and having fun and playing and stuff like that. And this is back when everybody had recordings on, and so we had a cassette tape, and I got this new little radio, and I was like recording stuff on it. I was recording music and sounds and me talking on it and stuff. And I decided, oh, you know what? I'm totally going to mess with my nephew. So I get the audio tape and I record it, and I let it pause for about a minute. And then I kick on, and I start making these monster sounds, and I'm just going, and I'm just making all these horrible Godzilla sounds and stuff. So and I'm doing it louder and louder and louder. Well, I saved that tape. So I go put that underneath the stairs in the little secret room. And so
I like it.
We're about ready to go upstairs. They're telling people to come up for dinner or whatever. And I tell my nephews, I said, hey, before we go upstairs, you better be careful, because there is a monster that lives down here. And they're like, shut up, Chris. No, you're not. I go, okay. I said, I'm telling you, if you guys, I go, he lives under the stairs. There's a secret door there that you probably don't even know about. And that's how he gets in and out. And they're, of course, no, you're not. Oh, whatever. And they're making fun of me. You're so stupid. And I'm like, all right, fine. So I said, we got to go upstairs. And they're around the corner. I hit play, turn the volume up. I shut the little secret door. And I said, hey, before you go upstairs, will you guys shut out the lights? And they're like, yeah. And I go, and I'm standing there. They go, you're going to lock us out. I said, no, I'm not. I said, well, you just go shut out the lights. We're supposed to shut out the lights in the rec room. Well, the switches are in the very back of the basement. And so by this time, I'm about 30 seconds before this thing goes off. And so they both shut it. And I go up the stairs and I said, oh, and by the way, the monster's coming for you. And I run up the stairs. And right as I shut the door on them and turn out the light, you could hear like the volume on this thing is like, and those two kids were literally, I mean, terrified.
Yeah.
They ran up the stairs. They're beating on the door, screaming, yelling. I have it locked. I run upstairs to my bedroom and like lay down like I'm not doing anything. They open the door. The adults, what is going on here? And they open the door and they're just like terrified. By this time, this tape had cut off. And they're going, there's a monster downstairs. And they're like, there's no monster down there. And of course, you know, the tape had stopped. So I come down and I come walking downstairs. I go, what's going on, people? I go, what's going on? They go, he locked us in. Oh my gosh. It's what I call precious.
Dude, how old were you? How old were you then?
I was probably about 12.
Okay.
I think it's
and how old were you? These were your cousins?
Yeah, it's my nephews. They're probably, I'd say probably 5 or 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah. And of course, all my nephews have all outgrown me. You know, they're all like 6'3", 6'4". I mean, huge dudes.
Oh, okay. And
I constantly remind them. I said, remember, I was kidding when we were growing up.
Yeah.
You know, now they can pretty much kick my butt. You know, it's funny how life works out like that. But yeah, but I remember eventually, and I think it was a couple days later. My dad was like, he went in that little storage area. It was like a 2 foot by 2 foot door. And he goes, what's this radio doing down here? I go like, oh, I don't know. And my dad goes, what's this? I go, well, I don't know. And I'm like going, don't hit play.
Yeah.
They just thought they were lying. You know, I never owned up to it.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
dude, that's awesome.
Did you have any older cousins or anything that teased you when you was younger?
Yeah, I had my uncles and stuff too. Yeah. They were typical uncles. They would, you know, sit on your chest and, you know, beat you. And, you know, just theirs was more about pain. Mine was just messing and teasing. But they would, you know, pin your arms back, thump you on your chest, like flick your forehead and stuff. Oh yeah. And then of course, being guys do a bunch of other gross stuff that I won't go into, but you know, we had a pool in our backyard. They'd be the first ones like, hey, Chris, come here. And then, you know, they throw you in the pool with your clothes on and stuff. And I'm like, and that's something too, we talk about the difference between today and growing up is because when you were we had a lot of friends that had pools. Everybody got thrown in a pool. Girls got thrown in a pool. Like you'd be walking by with your towel, your whatever. Everybody loved to push it. Nobody does that now because now everybody's got a $600 phone on them. Like nobody does that anymore. Even kids now, it's like he might have a phone on him because, you know,
or a $300 digital watch, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So now nobody does that anymore. It's like the days of pranking are gone.
I never knew no one ever got thrown in the pool when I was growing up. I mean, in England, there's really no point in having an outdoor pool because we get about 2 months, maybe 3 months of okay weather. So I mean, it would be a massive waste of money to get a pool.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, well, at least I didn't get thrown in one.
Did you tease your little cousins and such when you were little? Did you tease any of them?
I used to. Well, I have sisters that are like 10 years younger than me, and my brother's like 15 years younger than me. So I used to tease them a lot, and I used to make up stories to get them to do things for me. So I told them that there was like a sister fairy that would watch out for all little brothers and sisters and what they did for their big sister, and if they was mean to their big sister, then the sister fairy would, you know, like not bring them presents at Christmas.
Oh yeah.
Like they would. The sister fairy would tell the Easter bunny not to bring Easter eggs. So
get a bad report.
I would constantly get them to do things for me, like making me drinks and stuff, and get me snacks. And I would be like, and if they said no, I'd be like, well, the sister fairy will probably tell Santa and the Easter bunny, that you didn't do it, but it's up to you. So yeah.
I love it.
That's awesome. Okay, so I got a story I gotta tell, because it's similar to Chris's story, because like Leanne, when we were growing up, there wasn't a lot of video games and such. I mean, I thought about this morning, and I thought, why did we have so much fun? Because we had to be creative in the 80s, because there wasn't a lot of fun to be had. I mean, our idea of fun was a board game. You know what I'm saying? There wasn't that great stuff on TV, really. Not until MTV hit was there anything I even wanted to really watch on TV. But anyway, so my little cousin was over for Christmas, and he was up in my bedroom. And I got to give a backdrop of this. So I was probably 16, 17 years old, and I'd gone to Radio Shack, and I wired my stereo so that I could turn my stereo on and off underneath my covers. The reason is because there was a station in Kansas City, Missouri, about an hour outside of where Chris and I grew up, that every Sunday night they would play one side of a good album, and it would be like Led Zeppelin 4. And so I would have to be able to have the record and everything set on my stereo. So when it came on the radio at 11:30 at night or midnight or whatever, I could sit there in bed and flick it on and start recording that album. And then when it was done, I didn't want my stereo on all night, because we would get in trouble. I mean, we were disciplined in the 80s. I don't know what goes on with kids now, but you had to toe the line when we were growing up. And so then under my covers, as soon as it was over, and I'd be listening to it on my headset or whatever, and I'd just flick it off. I had this little extension cord with a switch on it. I'd flick it off 30 minutes, and I was done. Boom, turn it off. So my little cousin comes over Saturday morning, and I'm like, his name's Gar, and I'm like, Gar, you gotta watch this. This is the coolest thing. Uncle Jeff set this up for me. He goes, what do you mean? I'm like, watch my stereo. He's watching my stereo, and I'm like, on, off, on,
nice,
off, on, off. And I thought nothing of it. This was during Christmas break or whatever. I think this was a Friday morning. I was off. Nobody was in school anymore. We were off for winter break. And so then I went out with friends that night. That morning, I wake up, I'm all blurry-eyed. I'm like, what the heck's that sound? I see the little guy, he's in front of my stereo going like this. Nothing's
Can't get it to work.
Nothing's happening.
They probably thought you were magic.
Oh yeah, he's like,
what's that?
Uncle John's magic.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's so funny. I love that guy. They're like, how old's your little cousin? I'm like 50. He's like 49, 50. I mean, he's my little cousin though. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think he's like 48.
John, when you're growing up, you remember I was telling Angie that my wife's name's Angie the other day that I remember it was about 8th grade or so. But did you remember in about 8th grade or so, it was right before we went to high school, that book bag? You remember that they were like canvas bag? They almost look like tote bags. They almost look like how briefcases are now, but they were canvas, and they had like a feather strap. It's almost like what you call like a carry-all or whatever. But it was basically like a canvas book bag. Did you ever remember those? Because I told my mom there was on point 8th grade, and this is back when everybody's getting cool, wearing better cool jeans and cool shirts and stuff like that. Well, I remember, I guess this was about 8th grade. And all the rage were these book bags. And since, a lot of us walked to school and stuff, but they were like canvas and, almost like what you'd carry a laptop in with a strap on it. And so anyway, a couple of my buddies got them. They're like, well, are you going to get your book bag for school? And I'm like, what? And everybody's getting them, and I'm all about the popularity. I've got to keep up with the Joneses. And so I'm telling my mom about this book bag. I found it in a catalog and said, this right here. And my mom's like, why don't you just use your, I go, because Mom, it's what everybody's got. I want a book bag. And so I'm going on and on about this satchel, this book bag. And my mom's like, well, I'll see if I can find one while I'm out. And I'm like, Mom, school's on Monday. I'm like, and it's Friday. So you've got to get me this bag. I'm not going to be walking to school looking like a third grader. You know, I'm cool. You know, I want to carry a book bag like all my other friends. So my mom goes to the store. She goes,
peer pressure. The peer pressure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what it was. I was all about it. And so my mom goes, I'll go out and find you a book bag. And, you know, what kind? So I want it like dark. I want it like blue or gray, blah, blah, blah. Fine. So my mom comes rolling back home, pulls in the garage. I come flying out. I go like, did you get it? My mom's like, get what? And I go, the book bag. She goes, yeah, yes, Chris, I got you the book bag. And I'm like, so she pops the trunk. Oh, and I open the trunk. I'm looking around, you know, and she's like, help me with the groceries, you know, like most, and I'm grabbing the groceries and I'm looking around and go like, I bring in the groceries. I go, where's the book bag? She goes, it's in the back. I go, Mom, there's no book bag in there. And she goes, Chris, when you look on the left side, it's on the left side. It's right there. And I go back out there and look and I'm going like, oh no. I walk in with this thing and I go, are you talking about this? And she goes, yes, Chris, you wanted a book bag. And I go, Mom, this is a bowling bag. I go, this isn't remotely close. And she goes, well, Chris, they said it will work for because you can put books in. I said, I am not carrying a bowling bag. So she goes, Chris, it's not a bowling bag. I said, the hell it's not, Mom. I open it up. I said, see the round circle at the bottom? That holds a bowling ball. I'm like, that holds a bowling ball. And she goes, well, Chris, and my dad's over there going, well, looks like you're going to be walking to school with a 7-10 split. And I'm like, shut up, Dad. And I'm like, mad. My dad's making fun of me because I'm an emotional young lad. And I'm mad because now I don't have my book bag. I got this stupid bowling bag. And they even had a rosin bag inside of it. I said, Mom, this is a rosin bag. And I went out there and threw the bag. That's funny. So come Monday, I went to school carrying my stack of books like this with no bag. I refused. I said, I will not. I went and threw it back in the trunk. I'm like, no, a bowling bag. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, could not believe it. A bowling bag. I even said Brunswick on the side of it. It even had all the branding.
Need some bowling shoes to go with your bag.
Yeah, seriously. I'm like, oh my gosh. Did you use it?
Did you end up using it?
Oh no. That went right back in the trunk. She eventually took it back, and I think she brought it to the house a couple. She goes, "Well, you just," I go, "Absolutely not, Mom. No, I've got a reputation to uphold. Absolutely not." I said, if my dad is already making fun of me, I promise you, my buddies at school will be a hell of a lot worse. You know,
oh my
God, you know, kids are brutal, man. I mean, they are unrelenting. You know, if you weren't, you know, they make fun of anything, your clothes, your hair, and so you better be buttoned up, like flat out.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is very true.
I mean, I remember I lost my tooth the first time round when I was about 15. And my mum told me I had to go to school, but the dentist, I hadn't had it fixed yet. And I remember I played truant from school because
you gotta rock that thing, Leanne. Let's see that too. Rock that thing.
Yeah. So there was no way I was going into school like this. So I just played truant for like a week, so that I didn't have to face everybody. And I remember every day it was cold and I was like sitting under a bridge just thinking, should I have gone to school? But yeah, you're right. Kids are brutal.
Oh yeah. And they'll just, you know, and they'll find anything. Like, I mean, it could be anything, any flaw, anything that just isn't in their world normal. You know, it's unfortunate. But I said either that's going to make you a stronger person, or maybe not. I don't know. I mean, I think I think you just learn it. It's either going to build character or it's not. So, you know.
Yeah, and that obviously has to
cares less wins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's obviously been the same since the 80s, then 90s, 2000s. Yeah.
Nah, it really didn't change. My boys are in the 2000s, and kids still make fun of each other, and it's
I think
it is what it is.
Well, I think it's totally different now because with digital technology, you know, if we were growing up and, you know, no matter what, if something was said or done or whatever, there's no there's no record of it, right? Well, now it's like between texting and email and TikTok and everything, it's like it's out there forever. I mean, and if you're in school and you get a bad reputation, or somebody, especially if you're dating someone and you go through a bad breakup or something, and that person decides to share information on there, it can just destroy kids' lives, man. It's like we said the reason why we got away with everything growing up, there's no record of anything. We said even when we would be in high school and you'd sneak out or you'd go out with your buddies and stuff. Well, my dad would say, whatever my curfew was, it was like, 11 o'clock or whatever. Well, of course, I was never home on time. So my dad would always go like, what time did you get home last night? And I'd be like, 11:30. Well, and he would yell at me, well, you're supposed to be home by blah, blah, blah. And he's like, why were you late? Well, we always had an alibi. I go, well, I was over at John's house and his car ran out of gas, and because we were untrackable, we could constantly kind of come up with something and say that, so-and-so had a flat tire, so-and-so ran out of gas. They left without me, they thought I rode with somebody else, and you might have said, okay. And now it's like with phones, you can track your kid up to where they're at in the house. Like I know right now you're in the kitchen, So we played full advantage of that.
Those are good stories, man. Those are really
good Leanne?
What's that? Off. Yeah, she'll jump back on. We're going to try to, like you say, technology is only good when it works.
Yeah, it's I'm such a tech head. I love it, but sometimes it's like going back to the good old days. You do miss it, just because it's like, or we say like right now, before everybody relies on Google now, right? When we're growing up, if there was a debate on who is the best guitarist, well, you had to really do some homework to figure it out. Now everything's just in the palm of your hands, and it's just everything's Googled now. No matter what statistic you want to find out or information, it's in the palm of your hands. No,
you're exactly right. I'm going to send her the URL in case she can't find it. And she might just have like bad internet. You know what? It's showbiz, baby. We'll make it work regardless.
That's right.
I'm having a lot of fun with this international podcast.
Yeah, well, how many months have you been doing it now?
About 4. We did like a test podcast where I just kind of did a teaser. Mm-hmm. And then we did, so this is the third actual real podcast where we did it for an hour, but I kind of did a teaser thing where just Leanne and I were kind of like, just something to hit the marketplace with.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, this is coming.
Yeah, I like it too, because, anytime, you could share, good stories, growing up of because everybody's lifestyles are a little bit different, because I said, especially now with the media and the news, everything out there is just bad news. It's bad press. And it's kind of refreshing to, be part of something that's just a little bit more lively and fun.
Absolutely, man. So many people take life so seriously. And one of the things that I like about you, Chris, is you don't take life too seriously.
No,
Leanne definitely doesn't take life too seriously, and I'm pretty much still 13 years old.
I remember being a teenager. My dad, I always said, I grew up. My dad was a Roman Catholic and Marine, so that's why I'm in therapy. so I grew up with that, hardcore Roman Catholic, and then also not a Marine, So it was yes sir, no sir, and I just remember my dad one time we were at the dinner table. My dad, I was doing something immature. And my dad goes, and my dad was quite the comedian. He's the jokester. I
don't know if I ever got to meet your dad. I'm sure I saw him in multiple settings. But...
Yeah, probably to some degree you probably did. But he alone was, he's super funny. And all of a sudden I remember him yelling at me one time. I was like, teenager doing, and he goes, he told me to grow up. He goes, Chris, you need to grow up. That's your problem. You need to grow up and act your age. And I remember looking, I go, really, Dad? I go, you're talking about me growing up. And like, because he was constantly doing practical, pranks and stuff like that. And my mom looks over at him, she goes, well, he does have a point. Yeah.
That's awesome. I grew up with a pretty big disciplinarian. My dad was half Sicilian. He was 5'10.5", and he was the starting center of his high school football team all 4 years, including his freshman year.
Wow.
In his freshman year, he played for Coach Tabor.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Coach Tabor was just like getting out of college. And my dad played for him for Christian Brothers. My dad broke his nose like 3 times when he was in high school. Because back then, the football helmets, they didn't have like all the things on them.
They didn't have the full cage.
All the protection. And so like somebody could just go boom right there and just like hit him square in the nose.
Or when you're squaring up and, when you're blocking, it just even hands or up on your chin. So, and your nose is right there. It's going to get split.
I mean, my dad's nose went in so many different directions, but but he was such a big, like, quiet force that he was a quiet force, Leanne, in the 80s. He kept me in line, and I was honoring.
Yeah, we were. I always said if I was out and about, I said we were always up to something. And I was that kid. As soon as I could drive, I was gone. Like, I mean, as soon as I could drive, I was out the door. Like, my parents were like, they never saw me because I was just always, if there's an errand to be ran or go pick up pizza or anything, I'm like, I'll go. Like, I just wanted to drive. I cannot wait to go anywhere. And then, of course, going out and running errands, or my mom had to go to the store. I said, I'll go, Mom, tell me what you want, and go to the store. And then, of course, then I go by my buddy's house and, stop by, if you had a crush on a girl and, maybe drop by her house and stuff and come rolling in at like 9 o'clock. They're, where have you been? I'm like, oh, no, I'm out,
Okay. I got a funny story from the 80s. I had Leanne, I had this gal, and hopefully she gets to listen to this broadcast, a good friend of mine. And she loved to talk, Leanne. And back then, we didn't have cell phones. We had to call them on our rotary telephones. And I mean, she could carry on a conversation by herself. And to prove it, I had a friend spend the night. I'm like, dude, you got to watch this. He's like, what? I'm like, I'm going to call up. I'm not going to name her name, but Chris would know who she is. Her name starts with an A, and she was short in stature. Mm-hmm. And you knew like her brother really, really well. And I'll just say that. And we both know her sister really well. But anyway, she was a blast to talk to because you really didn't have to like carry on a conversation. She carried on the conversation. And so I would dial her number and say, can I speak to such and such and so and so? I just don't want to say her name. I'll say her name's Amy because that starts with an A. Be like, is Amy there? This is Amy. Hi, Amy. How's it going? It's John. Oh, hi, John. Doing well. So, Amy, tell me, what have you been up to? And then I would take the receiver and put it in my desk drawer and go downstairs. Sandwich. We're having a little internet issues. Put the receiver back down, and she'd still be talking. Like my buddy Matt's like, this is crazy. I can't believe this. I know. I'm like, yeah. She carried on
make a sandwich
by herself. It was in the 80s. We didn't have anything else to do.
Oh,
yeah, I mean, she would just like, it was so funny. It's like as you get married later in life, it was good. It was good practice for later in life when you get married and your wife has to talk all the time. Yeah. Okay, and you don't get to say anything. All you get to do is make sure you're listening to her. Or you hear, you're not listening to me. You didn't listen to me.
Oh,
That's a true story. I did not make that up. That is a true, honest to God story.
Put the receiver
Chris, you got to tell
drawer.
us a story about Johnny Rotten from LeBlanc High School.
Oh, actually, yeah. That's actually this
is one of your best stories from Johnny Rotten. I know he's listening.
So one of my really best friends from high school that John knows, he his nickname is Johnny Rotten for all the right reasons. He
the Sex Pistols.
Yeah, so
the Sex Pistols.
Yeah, so he was, so we had about 7, 8 buddies that we've all, even to this day, stayed very, very close to. We had our tight knit group, and everybody has nicknames in high school. Everybody had nicknames. To this day, we had nicknames, and everybody kind of goes by their nickname. Mine happened to be Motley, and so in our neighborhood, and this is one of the stories that to this day, my buddy John and my wife are really, really close. Because she kind of gave him a reprieve after all these years. So growing up on the other side of the neighborhood, we had some, it was actually the Ketchums. It was Kristen and a bunch of people, and their parents are gone. They were having a big party at the house. So all these teenagers are over there having a blast. And since it's on the other side of the neighborhood, I had been out, and I just drove my car over there. And I'm hanging out with everybody, talking to a bunch of people. And well, as John can attest, one thing about St. Joe, Missouri, I mean, anytime there was a chance to have a party somewhere, that's where everybody went. So anytime there was a gathering, especially if, parents are out of town and, it was like, we're going over to John's house. Now we're going over to Leanne. So it was to see how much parties you could hit, whether it be 2 or 3 people over there, or in some cases, these parties got way out of hand and there'd be like 100 people there. So we go over to my neighbor's house on the other side of the neighborhood, and we're all hanging out, having a blast. And then we hear about this other party on the other side of town. I think it was even a rival high school's party. And apparently it's supposed to be a blowout. And we're like, oh yeah, we're going to go over there. So we agreed. I said, well, why don't I'll drive my car around to the other side of the neighborhood, drop it off, and then I'll jump in with, whoever. So great. So I'm pulling out. There's like 50 cars in front of this house. Well, in our neighborhood, there is a house in between that it was like Better Homes and Gardens. It was a retired couple, and their yard was immaculate.
I mean, probably cut their grass, Chris.
Yeah, it was all. Their last name was, they were the Riders, and they got written up in magazines and stuff. I mean, they had like yard of the month, and it was truly stunning. I mean, it was fully manicured, gorgeous landscape. So I leave this party, and I have a bunch of tapes, right, in my passenger side seat. So I'm getting in, I'm like, oh, and as I'm coming around this corner, as I'm coming around the corner, oh, my cassettes hit the ground. And I'm like, oh man, and I lean down, and I'm trying to get one of my cassettes to play. And I'm looking down, I'm just barely reaching it. And I look up, and I'm like, and next to me, my car, it like launches into this massive bush. What? And I mean, this bush is the size of like a king size bed. It's huge, and it's a juniper. So it's very thick and woody. And my front tires are literally off the ground. Like I'm literally in a bush, and I'm like, oh my God. And also I don't know what to do. So I immediately kill my lights, and I turn off my engine, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm in these people's yard. It's probably 1 o'clock in the morning, or it's like midnight. So my buddy comes around in the corner, and Miguel comes running around, and he has a big Bronco, a Ford Bronco. And they're like, of course, they're all making fun. And they're like, what are you doing, you idiot? You bonehead. And I'm going like, and of course it's a neighbor. I'm going like, so we gradually get his chain out. We get it underneath my axle. We get him back in, and we're trying, it's a heavy duty chain. So we're trying not to wake the neighbor. So we're gradually trying to be quiet, and we gradually pull my car out because it's a neutral. And I mean, it rips this bush like with roots on it like this. The whole bush comes out with my car, drags across their driveway, middle of the street, dirt everywhere. I mean, we've destroyed their front yard. So we get unhooked, unchained. So like most, do we call it a night? No. It's like we literally get down, put his chain back in. We take my car, drop it off at my house, and we go to the next party. Like it's no big deal. And there's this bush, this massive bush with dirt and roots everywhere in the street.
Oh my God.
So fast forward. So this is my junior year of high school. This is 1985.
Nice.
So we go to this other party. We have fun. We come home late at night or whatever. Well, I literally kind of forget about everything. There's a little bit of roots underneath my car, like in the axle. And my mom comes downstairs and she goes, I need to talk to you. And I go, what? And she goes, just so you know, I know what happened last night. And I'm like, what? And I'm already thinking I'm grounded. Great. I'm going to lose my car. Mom goes, I know exactly what happened. I go, what do you, and of course I'm like, what are you talking about, Mom? I go, what? And she goes, Chris, don't lie to me. I know exactly what happened last night. I go, Mom, I have no idea what you're talking about. She goes, I know a bunch of people were over at Kristen's house. I heard her parents are out of town. There's a big party going on over there.
I bet I was there, Chris.
Probably were. I mean, it was huge. It was like Animal House. It was like a ton of kids.
I'm sure.
And I'm thinking that's what she's talking about, the party. And she goes, no. She goes, I'm talking about what happened to the writer's house or their yard. I go, I have no idea what you're talking about, Mom. And she goes, well, apparently there's some bunch of kids at their parents are out of town. It got out of hand, and somebody drove their vehicle into the bush and they destroyed their property. And I'm like going, I don't know what you're talking about. And she goes, oh, you can go around the street, Chris. It's the whole house, their yard's destroyed. There's a bush in the middle of the street. They've had to get a cleanup crew over there. And she goes, and she looks at me and she goes, and I know damn good and well who did it. And I go like, who? And she goes, that John Garvey. And I remember looking at Mom and I go like, I look at her as serious as could be. And I go, please don't tell his parents. And she goes, well, Chris, were you with him? I said, well, I was at that gathering, but I was not with him. And she goes, well, how in the heck did he put his car in a bush? And my mom's like, she goes, and I think John should march over their house. And I said, Mom, and I said, just don't get John in trouble. Please, please, please don't send him to his parents.
Johnny Rotten.
Yeah. And so anyway, so that's 1985. And like, so fast forward like 20 years later, my wife and I have been married for a while. We're over at my parents' house for dinner, like on a Sunday dinner. And my mom starts telling the story. She goes, well, Chris had some really good buddies growing up. She goes, but every now and then they would just do the stupidest things. And my mom starts telling my wife this story. She goes, did you ever hear the story about Chris's buddy, John, who they called Johnny Rotten? Like he literally destroyed one of our neighbors' prize bushes and blah, 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 blah. And I'm over there going like this, going like, because my wife knows the truth. And my wife looks over at my mom and she goes, Maxine, wait a minute. You know that story that John did not do that. Mom goes, well, yes, he did. And she goes, it was your son who did that. And my mom looks over at me and she goes, what? And I go, it was me. And my mom goes, I cannot believe for 20 years you were going to let that guy take the heat for that. And I go, so buddies do, Mom. I didn't want to get in trouble and get grounded, so I let
John. My God.
So John later, Angie eventually told John this story, and John goes, I cannot believe after all these years you're going to let me go to the grave with your mom thinking that. I'm like, hey, it's what buddies do, John. Sorry.
Hey, Chris. So did John's mom, or did your mom like try to keep you from doing stuff with John based upon that?
No, not per se, because his mom never found out about it. But yeah, I mean, we were
So like she didn't like, hey, I don't want you hanging around with him. He destroys bushes and people's yards and drives off.
Yeah, I think I put enough of a spin on it that it wasn't careless. It was accident. And I think I probably got to the point where I did John the defensive, like how did that happen? I said, well, Mom, so from what I gather, a dog ran out in the road or something, and John swerved so he wouldn't hit the dog or the cat or the squirrel. And I said, and he went into the bush. That's what happened. So I think that kind of helped clear John's slate, even though he was totally innocent and had nothing to do with it. But my mom just couldn't figure out how a car can end up in a bush. I'm like, well, it's because your stupid son was fishing for a cassette underneath the seat, was not paying attention to this vehicle, and plummeted it into a bush. And yeah, so. And then I heard a month later, what our neighbors, the Woods down the street, she said, and I already graduated, and she said, Chris, you remember the night that happened, about the bush incident? She said, Tom and I were watching the whole thing through our dining room window. And she said, we never told your parents. I'm like going like, No kidding. I'm like, wow.
God love them.
Yeah, and she said, we watched the whole thing. We're thinking, like, how are they going to get this car out of this bush? And we sat there in the dark in the dining room and watched you guys pull your vehicle out of this bush and wrap this thing in the middle of the street. And they never told my parents. They covered for me. So,
dude, thank God you didn't get hurt. I got to know though, Chris, what cassette were you trying to get?
That was actually Judas Priest, Green Manalishi with the 2-prong crown.
There you go, Leanne.
Yeah,
I think we lost Leanne for audio.
Yeah, but, it was either that or actually, no, it was Judas Priest, British Steel. That's what it was.
Another good one.
Yeah,
I was thinking it might be the original Motley Crue album.
Well, the fact that we're talking about this just on the other side of the neighborhood, like it's literally a 30-second drive. Like, why do I need to listen to a cassette for 30? I'm going to be getting out of my car, so it tells me what even a typical teenager. What was I even thinking? Why didn't I just leave my stereo off, park my car, jump in, go out, and be safe? But no, but poor John, man, he took the brunt. He took that. It's kind of like your buddy. You're both out. Some guy he goes to prison for a crime he didn't commit. That's kind of what happened to John, man. And I'm just out living my life, living the dream. And John took it for 20 years until my wife decides to tell my mom the truth.
That's funny.
Because my wife's going like, "Oh, your son is not all this innocent, by the way, Maxine." And she's like, "What?
That's a good story, dude.
My little boy." I'm like, "One."
We might not be able to get audio back with Leanne. Dude, that's an awesome story. We're kind of coming to the hour.
Cool.
And so now it's promotion time. So Chris, it's time for you to promote your business. So tell us all about your biz.
So what, as far as all the stuff I do creative wise?
Yeah. Just tell the world, because this is an international broadcast.
So my biggest thing is, for me, I've been a designer my whole life. I was an art major. I was even in high school. I really excelled at anything when it came to artwork and stuff. So whether it came to drawing and painting and stuff like that. So when I got into college, I became a graphic designer, and over the last few years, my business has exploded. Most people find me online under Uzinski Digital or uzinskidigital.com. And so basically, one of the things I probably love and do the most of is I do a lot of branding for a lot of companies. So companies that are coming out, and they have a name of a company. That's about it, but they don't have any branding, no graphics or anything. So what I'll do is I'll create all their branding, their imagery for them, all their logo marks and stuff like that, as well as also create their website, as well as manage their social media and stuff for them too. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It keeps my creative skills sharp and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been very, very fortunate. Truly, even in the middle of this pandemic and stuff, it's been the busiest I've been in probably 5 years. So.
Dude, that's awesome. We'll add your branding to this broadcast.
Oh, thank you.
Just send me a slide, and we'll slide it on in.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Thank you, John. I appreciate that, and
Absolutely,
thank you for having me on the show today. And it was so good. Always good to catch up with you. Fantastic to get to meet Leanne, and looking forward to good stuff.
Leanne, can you say some words about your biz? She might not have audio. Well, Leanne's a professional comedian in Birmingham, England, and we'll add, she has her own podcast too on relationships, and it's kind of a comedy podcast. So we'll add a slide to the broadcast for Leanne too. All you got to do, Leanne, is email it to me. We'll add it to the broadcast. And my name's Jon Saleswarrior out of Dallas, Texas. I have a side biz too. And in my side biz is I'm an author. I have a book on Amazon. It's called Sales Warrior. And I have a class on Teachable, which is an online class that you can take to learn all about how to sell. And then finally, we have this international broadcast that will keep on keeping on, and hopefully bringing some comedy to the world. So please share this with your friends, and to give us patronage to our businesses, because that'll help us to bring more broadcast and more funny stuff to y'all. And we're going to go ahead and sign off. I don't know, Leanne, can you say hi? No, she's out audio.
Yeah, no audio.
Chris, I'll say bye for Leanne, but Chris, go ahead and sign off, say bye, and then we'll say, so Leanne saying bye. She's giving us the she's giving us the middle finger from the UK. We appreciate it, Leanne.
Well, Jon, thank you for your time today. I appreciate it. And,
absolutely, dude.
See you next time, my friend.
Man. Absolutely, it's a short life. We had today Christopher Uzinski, a very funny man from Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm Jon Saleswarrior here in Dallas, Texas. We're signing off for this episode. We appreciate everybody being here today. And here's to more funny times with friends. Adios.